Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're really digging into the world's most critical economic rivalry. We're going to break down the core vulnerabilities of both the US and China to figure out who really has the upper hand and what the future of this high-stakes competition is actually going to look like.
You hear this phrase everywhere, don't you? A new Cold War. It's a simple, kind of dramatic way to frame the intense competition between the US and China. But here's the question. Is it the right way to understand what's really happening?
Well, according to the source material we're analyzing today, that simple comparison isn't just a little off. It's fundamentally flawed. It's dangerously misleading, actually. And it completely misses the real story of this 21st century rivalry. So let's get into why.
All right, so first things first, to really get to the heart of this, we have to understand why that old Cold War playbook it doesn't apply to the incredibly complex economic reality we're living in today. This right here, this is the absolute core of the difference. Think about it. The Soviet Union was pretty much an isolated, self-contained economic bloc. China, though, it's woven into the very fabric of the global economy. Any serious attempt to just cut China out would cause catastrophic damage, not just to them, but to the US and its allies, too. That creates a powerful deterrent against a total breakdown. And this is where the raw data just tells the story so clearly. I mean, look at these numbers. The Soviet economy, at its absolute peak, was maybe half the size of America's. China's is now around 70%, and if you adjust for what their money can actually buy there, it's even larger. The global integration is just off the charts in comparison, and the military spending that crushed the Soviet system, China's is a tiny fraction of its GDP. This isn't David versus Goliath again. This is a true battle of titans. So the crucial point here is that this is not a contest of isolation like before. It's a complex rivalry that's happening inside the global system. And that forces us to ask the central question of this entire analysis.
In this new kind of rivalry, one that's all about economic interdependence and competition, who is actually more fragile? Who's more likely to face a major economic downturn first?
The analysis first points to a really powerful combination of challenges facing the Chinese economy right now. And these aren't just, your typical bumps in the road. These are deep structural shifts.
These three things are creating something of a perfect storm. That real estate downturn is a really big deal because it's forcing this painful shift away from their old growth model of just build, build, build. When people and companies are all focused on paying down debt instead of spending and investing, well, that puts a major brake on the entire economy.
Okay, so now let's flip the coin and look at the United States. The analysis shows that it faces a really different set of challenges, but they're no less significant for its long-term health.
And this just illustrates the stark contrast, doesn't it? While the U.S. economy shows this fundamental resilience, in innovation and energy, its greatest risks are arguably self-inflicted. They come from long-term fiscal choices and a political environment that creates massive uncertainty for everyone.
So the analysis comes to a pretty clear conclusion for the near term. China's risk of a major structural slowdown is higher than America's risk of a policy-induced recession. You could say China is navigating a difficult but necessary transition, while the U.S. really just has to avoid shooting itself in the foot.
Now, this economic rivalry is being fought on what might be its most critical battleground of all, the war for technological supremacy.
This phrase, small yard, high fence, it just perfectly captures the American strategy. It's not about a total economic divorce. It's surgical. The goal is to build a very high fence around a very specific small yard of foundational technologies, things like advanced semiconductors and AI hardware, to slow down China's progress in areas that are critical to national security.
But this strategy has had a fascinating, kind of double-edged effect. On one hand, yeah, it's created real short-term pain for Chinese tech firms, especially in getting the high-end chips they need for advanced AI. But on the other hand, it's triggered what the analysis calls a Sputnik moment in China. It has lit a fire under them, igniting this unprecedented national drive for technological self-reliance no matter the cost.
And if you look back at their Made in China 2025 plan, you see this split result. In sectors like EVs and batteries, China has just blown past its goals to become a global leader. I mean, its shipbuilding capacity is now a staggering 200 times that of the US. But in those core small yard technologies, that persistent gap is still there.
So, where does all of this lead? Let's just be crystal clear. The old idea of some collaborative G2 partnership, where the US and China kind of co-manage the world, that's completely off the table.
We really need to forget the idea of a grand bargain or a return to the good old days. The new reality is what the report calls a structural war of attrition. It's a long, grinding competition where each side tries to strengthen its own system while exploiting the weaknesses of the other.
By 2030, this scenario suggests we're going to see a world with two pretty distinct, competing economic and tech spheres. It's not going to be a clean break like the Iron Curtain, but more of a messy divergence where critical supply chains are rerouted and the nations in the global south become the key swing states in this new geopolitical landscape.
This one quote from the analysis just captures the profound shift perfectly. Chimerica, that term for the once symbiotic economic relationship, it's over. It's dead. What's replaced it is this long-term, managed confrontation.
This leaves us with one final, and I think really provocative, thought that gets right to the heart of this entire rivalry and what will ultimately determine its outcome.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. The analysis concludes this competition won't be won by one country simply overpowering the other. It's going to be won by whichever nation can first solve its own fundamental internal challenges. The real victor will be the one that gets its own house in order first. And that, well, that's a question only the future can answer.